In a quiet village surrounded by green hills and tall pine trees lived an old man named Thomas. He was kind, gentle, and kept to himself. Thomas had lost his wife many years ago, and since then he lived alone in a small wooden house at the edge of town. But Thomas was never truly alone, because he had Marley. Marley was a golden retriever with soft golden fur, kind eyes, and a heart full of love. He wasn't always this happy. Years ago, Marley had been a tiny, shivering puppy, left alone on the side of a country road in the middle of a rainstorm. Cold, wet, scared. That's when Thomas found him. Thomas pulled over his old truck, wrapped the puppy in his coat, and whispered, "You're safe now, little one." He brought Marley home, dried him by the fire, and fed him warm soup from a spoon. From that moment on, Marley never left Thomas's side. Every morning, Thomas would wake up with Marley curled up at the foot of his bed. He would smile, pat his head, and say, "Ready for another day, old boy?" Marley's tail would wag like crazy. They went everywhere together, down the village path, through the marketplace, past the bakery where the baker always gave Marley a piece of bread. The whole village knew them. "There goes Thomas and his shadow," people would say with a smile. In the afternoons, they'd walk to the lake. Thomas would sit on his favorite bench and throw sticks. Marley never got tired of fetching them. They'd just sit, man and dog, watching the sun sink behind the hills, the sky turning gold and pink to Marley. Thomas wasn't just a friend. He was everything. He knew the sound of Thomas's footsteps, the smell of his clothes, the way his voice softened when he spoke to him. Marley could feel Thomas's love in every glance, every pat, every word, and Thomas loved Marley just the same. But as time passed, Marley began to notice something changing. Thomas walked a little slower now. He coughed more often, would stop, and rest more than he used to. His hands sometimes trembled when pouring Marley's food. Marley watched it all, quietly. He didn't understand what was happening, but deep down he felt it. Something was wrong, so he stayed even closer. If Thomas got up in the night, Marley would follow. If he sat by the window, Marley sat too. If he dozed off on the chair, Marley lay under it, head resting on his foot. Wherever Thomas was, Marley wanted to be. One evening, as the sun was setting and a cool wind brushed through the trees, Thomas sat on the edge of his bed. Marley jumped up beside him. Thomas placed his hand gently on Marley's head and looked into his eyes. "You've been a good friend," he whispered, voice soft and tired. "The best I could have asked for." Marley nudged his hand, trying to keep it there. Outside, the wind whistled through the trees. The world was quiet inside, under a dim lamp. Man and dog lay side by side, just like every other night. Marley closed his eyes, not knowing that this night would be different. But even if he did, he wouldn't have moved, because he was where he belonged, right beside the one he loved most in the world. Asterisk that night. The air outside Thomas's little house was heavy with rain. The wind tapped softly against the window panes, and the trees swayed like they were whispering secrets to the dark. Inside, the room was warm and quiet. Thomas sat on the edge of his bed, wrapped in a soft blanket. Marley, his golden retriever, was curled up beside him, his head resting gently on Thomas's knee. The fire in the hearth flickered softly, casting shadows on the walls. Thomas's hand moved slowly through Marley's fur, his touch light but filled with love. "I'm tired, boy," Thomas said quietly, his voice cracked but full of warmth. "You've been my best friend, my family." Marley looked up at him with those deep, gentle eyes that seemed to understand more than any human words could say. The dog let out a soft whimper, as if he knew this was a special moment, a moment that would change everything. Thomas leaned down and kissed Marley on the head. "I love you, Marley." The dog nudged his hand once more, a soft, reassuring touch. Then he settled back down, close and still. As the rain pattered on the roof, Thomas's breathing slowed. His eyes closed, and then in the quiet of that night, Thomas slipped away peacefully, without pain, without struggle. His hand still resting on Marley's head, Marley stayed exactly where he was. Morning came with a gentle light, but it brought silence too. Thomas's voice was gone. The house felt emptier than ever. Marley didn't move. He lay beside Thomas, his body close, refusing to leave. His eyes were wide and watchful, never blinking, as if waiting for his friend to wake up. But Thomas's eyes never opened again. The villagers found them later that day. They knocked softly on the door when no one answered, and stepped inside with heavy hearts. They saw Marley, still curled beside the bed, loyal and calm as if guarding something precious. When they tried to pick Marley up, the dog growled quietly. It wasn't a mean growl. It was a sound of sadness, a soft warning that this was not the time to take him away. Marley's love for Thomas was stronger than anything else in the world. He didn't want to leave the side of the man who had saved him, loved him, and shared his whole life with him. For Marley, the house without Thomas was not a home anymore. The bed where Thomas had last sat was sacred ground. Days passed. The sun rose and set, but Marley never left the room. He refused food and water, his eyes always searching, always waiting. Neighbors stopped by with worried faces. They whispered, "That dog won't leave the bed." Some tried to carry Marley outside for a walk, but he would pull back, frightened and stubborn. His loyalty was a powerful chain holding him there. At night, when the house was silent, Marley would sigh softly. His chest would rise and fall slowly, as if breathing in memories. He dreamed of Thomas's voice, the gentle pats, the warm hands, and the love that never left. Marley's world had stopped, but his heart kept beating, full of hope that Thomas might return. The villagers began to understand something incredible. This wasn't just a dog waiting for his owner. This was a bond that could not be broken by time or death. In the corner of the room, the fire burned low. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside, Marley remained a faithful guardian of love, of memory, and of a friendship that no darkness could ever touch. The days after Thomas passed felt heavy with silence. The villagers knew what Marley was going through. They saw the golden retriever lying by the bed, eyes wide and unblinking, like he was waiting for Thomas to return from a long journey. But no one could bring themselves to take Marley away from the house, not yet. Thomas had been buried on a gentle hill beneath the old oak tree, overlooking the village. The villagers gathered that day, some with tears, others with quiet respect. They placed flowers on the fresh earth and said their goodbyes. But Marley wasn't there. He stayed behind. In the house that felt emptier than ever, for days Marley refused to eat or drink. The bowl of water and food left beside the bed remained untouched. His once bright eyes grew dull with sadness. The villagers worried about him. They came by with gentle voices and soft hands, hoping to coax him out. One kind woman, Mrs. Harper, brought a warm blanket and placed it near the fire. Another neighbor, Mr. Lewis, sat quietly in the corner, speaking softly to Marley about Thomas. But Marley stayed where he felt closest to his friend. The bed where Thomas had taken his last breath. Sometimes, when the sun filtered through the curtains, casting warm, golden light across the room, Marley would sigh deeply, almost as if he were breathing out the memories of their days together. At night, the house was still, except for the soft sounds of Marley's breathing and the crackle of the dying fire. One stormy night, the wind howled fiercely, and thunder rolled across the sky like the roar of giants. Rain beat hard against the windows. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind broke a branch off the old oak tree outside. Smashing through the bedroom window with a shattering crash, the villagers rushed to the house, fearing for Marley's safety. When they entered, they found the window shattered and the room drenched with rainwater. But Marley was still there, shivering, trembling, yet unmoving. His eyes were wide, but full of quiet strength. The dog had weathered the storm without leaving his post. It was clear. Marley's loyalty was more than just love, it was courage. No matter the storm, no matter the pain, he would stay. The villagers saw something extraordinary in Marley that day, a pure, unbreakable bond. A love that didn't fade with loss, but grew stronger in the face of grief. In the weeks that followed, a small boy named Eli began visiting the house. Eli was shy, but he had a gentle heart. He had always admired Marley from afar. Watching how the dog never left Thomas's side, Eli started coming every day, sitting quietly near the door. Sometimes he read aloud from Thomas's old books, his soft voice filling the empty rooms with stories and memories. He never tried to rush Marley or pull him away. Instead, he simply sat, patient, kind, and full of respect. Slowly, something began to change. Marley started lifting his head more often when Eli was near. His eyes seemed less empty, and his tail gave small, hesitant wags. The house, once cold and lonely, began to feel a little warmer, though Marley still slept beside Thomas's bed every night. During the day, he started following Eli to the doorway, and just outside it. It was the first sign that Marley was ready to carry the love he had for Thomas into a new chapter. But no matter where Marley went, the bed remained sacred. It was a place where memories lived, a place where love was never lost, and Marley would always be there to keep it safe. Months passed quietly in the small village. Slowly, life began to change for Marley, and for those who loved him, though. Marley still slept every night beside Thomas's bed. Something new had begun during the day. The little boy Eli, who had patiently visited the house for weeks, had become Marley's new companion at first. Marley would only follow Eli a few steps away from the room, sometimes just to the doorstep, sometimes into the garden bathed in soft sunlight. Eli never pushed him, always waiting, understanding that healing takes time. One afternoon, under the bright blue sky, Eli threw a stick near the old oak tree, the same tree where Thomas was buried. Marley looked at Eli, then at the stick. His tail twitched. Slowly, carefully, he fetched it. The villagers who watched this moment smiled with tears in their eyes. The golden retriever, who had been trapped in grief, was beginning to live again. Eli's family, seeing the deep bond between boy and dog, decided to adopt Marley. They wanted to give him a new home, a fresh start. But they also understood that some things couldn't be rushed. No one ever moved Marley from Thomas's bed. That room remained a sanctuary, a place filled with memories and the quiet presence of a love that never faded. Marley's loyalty didn't disappear. It simply found a new way to shine. Days turned to weeks, and weeks into years. Marley grew older. His fur, once golden and bright, began to show streaks of silver. His steps slowed, and his eyes held the wisdom of a lifetime. But every night, without fail, Marley returned to the bed where Thomas had last rested. One spring morning, as the sun poured gently through the window, Marley curled up on that familiar spot. His breathing was slow and peaceful. He let out a soft sigh, a deep, contented breath that seemed to carry the love and memories of 100 days and nights. And then quietly Marley slipped away. The village mourned. Not just a dog, but a symbol, a reminder of a bond so deep. It had conquered even death. Together, they buried Marley beside Thomas under the old oak tree. The two friends, man and dog, rested side by side forever. Their spirits entwined in the soft breeze that danced through the leaves. And though their bodies were gone, their story lived on, in the hearts of the villagers, in the whispers of the wind, and in every loyal paw step that would ever follow, because Marley had shown them all what true love and loyalty mean. Moral message: true loyalty doesn't end with goodbye. It lives on in the quiet places where love never leaves.